Oh, it's not even charging. Oh, this got to charge up. Hold on. Trying to reconnect. Okay, that's fine. We having problems. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes you technology tries to reconnect. That's why you got to go on live faster. Am I on here right now?
Yeah, you're live on Instagram.
All right. Hey, Instagram. We're live already. I'm about to go back on the air. Got about 15 more seconds. My producer's about to count me down. That's why I'm talking real fast to make sure. Oh, yeah. Here I am coming back on. So, okay, good. All my devices seem to be dying. Why am I still shining? Am I on Facebook Live and Instagram Live?
Yes,
Here we go.
you are live on both.
Let me go use my black wokeness. All right. Yes, I want to talk about. All right, we are back with It's Debatable with attorney Nyanza L. Moore, and I am coming back with our Black Tax segment, and we're going to be talking about Here Come the Feds. And you know what? Let me just be honest before I even tell you guys what the topic is. Here come the feds. They always seem to be chasing the black and brown people. So usually when we're turned around looking, it's about us. But guess what? In my segment today, it's not about us. It's about the majority of Americans. So in my update number 1 from Vanity Fair, it says former President Donald Trump does not want to turn over his taxes. Yes, those federal tax returns that is now being sought after by the people on Capitol Hill and the IRS and the people in the great state of New York. And, you know, we now have a lady governor who's probably a Democrat. We have Letitia James. Is that her name? Letitia, who's the attorney general for the great state of New York. They want the taxes. So Trump has been seen begging not to turn over his tax returns to the congressional investigators. Also, Donald Trump is being investigated. See, here come the feds. They come right after you, President Trump. I'm so sorry that you're going through. I don't wish this kind of stress on anybody, because no matter who it is, when it's you versus the United States of America, you're probably not going to win unless you come up with a really, really good deal. And with Trump trying to pull out all the stops, I guess he decided not to help his former attorney and chief counsel when he was trying to do the insurrection staging on January the 6th. He had Giuliani. Now Giuliani looks like he's going broke. And Donald Trump is trying not to go broke because he had some purchases of some golf courses that he's now facing a wealth investigation over. Because now that we have current President Joseph Biden in office, Joe Biden's like, hey, we got the tax. We got $1 trillion we're trying to spend on infrastructure. Also giving free pre-K to those underserved communities where the people needed it. And I'm all happy about that. Now, he didn't do anything for voting. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But he's like, you know what? I'm doing the best I can just to make sure that people who are the wealthiest amongst us pay their fair share. So now a petition was set up by a U.S.-based nonprofit called the Unexplained Wealth Order, the UWO, against Trump. It's a court order issued by a British court to force an individual to reveal sources of their finances, also known as a McMafia order. Ooh, you know what? Maybe we could get those British people in here to go ahead, the UWO for the Unexplained Wealth Order, to go ahead and do a little bit of an investigation on how the Cuomo's got all their money. You know, because Governor Cuomo allegedly, now, you know, I'm all for the gangster. You know, I like the baby. So Governor Cuomo allegedly, you know, the Cuomo family has mafia ties in New York. Now, it would be great if the UWO could be like, where you getting all your money, Governor Cuomo? Chris, how much are they paying you over there at CNN? We know you're not the mob. Nyanza just wants to hear how you get your money. Because if now you're out of office, how much wealth does your family have to live on? So that's what's happening with Donald Trump's in the news, because the feds are after him. Next thing, we have a federal lawsuit relating to the insurrection. And the reason behind the insurrection was because people did not think that the vote win for Joseph Biden to become the president was a valid vote. You have Dominion is the company, Dominion Voting is the company that created the voting machines that were used in the presidential election. So for the 2020 presidential election fraud conspiracy, you know, they filed defamation lawsuits against an ally of President Trump. And they're saying that the companies lost $1.6 billion in revenue when the unfounded allegations of election fraud were being peddled by Rudy Giuliani and Fox News and Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Now, for those of you who don't understand what MyPillow is, now I bought a MyPillow before all this kerfluffle happened. I bought a MyPillow when I was shopping at Marshall's for a discount. And they were super soft. And I thought, okay, this is great. Then the shenanigans happened with the presidential election. And when people started talking on TikTok and Twitter, since I'm not on TikTok, when they started saying, hey, the MyPillow guy is saying that the election was a fraud, I was like, okay, well, now who is listening to the Pillow Man in the first place? Well, I didn't realize that he was like the number one supporter of this election fraud disinformation campaign, but being put out there by QAnon and a lot of people from conservative networks and listening stations and a lot of, honestly, conservative media outlets that were saying that, you know, the election was rigged and that Joe Biden was not the real president or whatever, all this kind of crap that they're putting out there. The same way they launched disinformation campaigns about the coronavirus, and now that they're launching disinformation campaigns about whether or not the police officers, the 4 DC security officers, were murdered, or it was some government cover-up, or whether they actually, you know, killed themselves. You have the disinformation pundits, so that's why I'm giving you all the actual information right here from my notes about here comes the feds, and we love to hear that the feds are doing their job while the disinformation folks are out there peddling out bad law. So we have a story in Texas where the Texas Democrats could be compelled to return to the state capitol via an arrest warrant, says the House Speaker. For those of you who don't know, the Texas Democrats did a mass exodus to be able to leave when they were putting up a lot of new voting bills that were slanted against the black and brown, made to take away voting machines, stop people from turning in mail-in ballots, limiting the number of people that can ride in the car together. I think they already did that. That passed the last time. But making all of these extra hoops that black and brown people and poor people have to jump through in order to vote. And what I believe happened and that caused Texas to trigger their rush to change the law was based in part by the 2018 election where the Democrats did a sweep. They completely flipped the 27-year run Republican county elected offices in Harris County, which contains Houston, from red to blue. And that flipped caused a panic because they were then trying to say, well, this is just a fluke. Maybe there was some impropriety going on, but they kept that same party going with that disinformation. And instead of them jumping on the QAnon bandwagon, they said, well, you all have problems out there in the United States with the election of the president. We have problems here back in Texas with all these Democrats that have been elected up and down the state lines and in the largest city in the state, which is Houston. So what do we need to do while we are the red team that's controlling the House and the Senate in the legislature down there in Texas? But we need to put forth a whole bunch of laws to suppress the vote any kind of way we can. Because what they realize is this, the 2020 census is coming out. The 2020 census is out. The the lines are going to be redrawn because some people gained and some people lost representatives for their district. So when those lines are redrawn, you may not be represented by the same person. In the state level down in Austin, they wanted to make sure that if those lines were drawn biased to where they came out to where they were going to lose their conservative voting bloc, they wanted to make sure that they had a fail-safe by changing the rules down there at the state capitol while they have the majority in the House and the Senate and say, we're in charge. We have a Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, Republican attorney general. These are the anti-masker party, the voter suppression people, you know, the ones that are going to tell you you're going back to school no matter what. We're the people responsible for the Texas freeze because we wanted to have our own grid. You know, those are the people in charge down there in Austin. But one thing that they are very good at is going to the root of the problem as to why they begin to lose. They say, oh, if we're starting to lose, we need to, number one, figure out exactly who's voting for these Democrats. Well, when Texas got sued for not implementing the federally mandated rule that states have to give people the option to do voter registration automatically, they didn't do it. Texas didn't do it. So they changed the rules to be in compliance with the federal regulations a couple of years ago to make it so that whenever you're renewing your Texas driver's license, you automatically can get registered to vote. What they found was that it caused a surge in new voters to the tune of 68 million. Okay? 68 million exercised the voter registration option when they renewed their driver's license in Texas. So guess what the Texas conservatives did, and all the people that, espouse their politics? They decided to see exactly what demographic that was voting. The 68 million people, they were people that were the black and brown folks. Yes, they were. The underserved community that was put out there to say, hey, those are the people that don't have it easy to register to vote. They don't always get to make it when they're getting off of the city bus and working that midnight shift to go register. But guess what? When they have to renew their driver's license, the state of Texas had to make it easy because the federal government said they had to. So what did that mean? The Republicans down in Texas looked at the data. They like to look at science when it comes to data, when it comes to voting, but they don't really like to look at science when it comes to health issues like COVID. Anyway, I digress. So whenever you have them seeing that 68 million people are now voting, that will be voting in the 2022 election, it was a cause for alarm that how can we stop these people from being able to be 68 million people that are now going to vote for the blue team or the independent team? What happens? They decide to change the rules and say, okay, we're going to stop having voting in your neighborhood. We're going to stop to where those polling locations are going to close at the time that you get off work. Yes, sir. If you are driving the bus, you might be driving people, dropping them off to the polling station, but you won't be voting, sir, because you get off to work too late. Oh, you want to have somebody else drop off your mail-in ballot? Well, they can't do that either. That's what's happening in Texas. They like to rewrite the rules from the inception. That 68 million vote count, those new people that are going to vote in this 2022 election, they're trying to find out every single way they can stop the people from voting for the blue team so that there is not a massive flip from red to blue in Texas, causing the Democrats to do a sweep. Now, here's the problem that I have, and they're telling me to wrap it up. Okay, let me go ahead and wrap it up so I can come back on in just a minute. God dog, I need 4 hours. Okay, what my producer's doing her fingers like this? Wrap it up, wrap it up. I want to say one more thing while I'm going. Can I get one more? Okay, thank you. So, here's one more thing we need to think about. While I'm out here chastising the people in positions of power for what they're doing to try to suppress the vote out here, that is called a statewide black tax. Do you hear me, ladies and gentlemen out there? People of color, I hope you're listening too, because this affects you too. When they suppress the right to vote for black and browns and the immigrants, all these people amongst us who may not look like us, but they kind of like us because they look kind of tan, then that's you. You're looking in the mirror. You may identify as white, but your voter registration card says you're not white. They're going to try to suppress your vote. They're going to do all kinds of shucking and diving to hide the machines. Well, here's the problem that I have with the Democrats on Capitol Hill. Now, if we elected you with our secure vote, and you saw the black and brown people up there trying to vote, especially the black women, who is the largest and most powerful demographic voting bloc in the country, then you should do what it takes to protect their right to continue voting for you. Simpletons up there. Remember, the black and brown Democratic voters, the women that are licking the envelopes, the men that are licking the envelopes, the people in all of the underserved community that are licking the envelopes, stuffing ballots to make sure that they can be like, okay, stuff this over here. This is a lesson. This is where you can find your polling locations. Making sure that people know this is the date that the early voting starts and making sure they have information. Everybody doesn't have Wi-Fi. If you are living in assisted living community or if you are in government housing, you may not have your Wi-Fi turned on to CNN or any of those news stations that you like to listen to. And you may not have the dates right. And if all you're being fed is disinformation, or if you're being told at your job that you're not allowed to talk about when to vote and you're not being let off your job to go vote, which they should make voting a national holiday anyway, then you're not going to get the right information. So if you're up there in DC, and if I elected you to Capitol Hill to represent me, and you are up there not, if you found it a part of yourself to make black and brown people pay the voting rights black and brown tax by not putting some voter protection in this $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill where you put in pre-K, okay? You put in some immigration stuff. You put in some roadways and bridges and stuff like that. You put in whatever you wanted to stack the deck with, whatever lobbyists that were out there. Here's what I need to happen. All you non-black Democrats that were up there not giving the voting rights what it needed to be put into this bill to protect the rights so we don't have to act like a donkey, so that people out there at the state legislature, the black and brown Democrats and the white Democrats too, they had to fly to DC to beg you during your lunch hour to please pay attention to us. We have hopped on a jet to come to DC to protect the voting rights of what's going on in the South. You see what's happening in Texas? It's going to happen in Georgia. All those states that you flipped, we may be in a season where we are of the one-term president cycle. Because just because we elected Joe Biden the last time does not mean they're going to elect a Democrat the next time. You keep on wanting to sit up on your butts. Trump got elected. Okay, we can wrap this up because we got to go to the next segment. I got a break. I know.
You want to end
I need it.
Keep going.
Y'all see that? Did y'all like that? We're going to end this. We're going to pick back up on the next segment. But you know what? I want to talk about, let me see. I have too many topics for this segment. I really do, because you should not have the Democrats from the state of Texas flying up there begging the people that have the power by the stroke of a pen. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves with a stroke of a pen to his own benefit, because he needed to win the war and he needed more bodies to come up in arms to represent the blue team. I understand, and not the gray. So, but he did it with the stroke of a pen, not worrying about it having bipartisan support. Because guess what? It will never have the true bipartisan support so long as you're trying to make the black and brown people equal to the people that are in positions of power all across the country. Do you hear me? Do I need to repeat that? I don't know why I'm talking in the microphone. The microphone ain't now. I'm talking to you listeners out there. So I'm ready to go back on.
Are you doing here comes you want to do 5 more minutes?
I'm going to break this live so we can do a second segment in now.